Hello and welcome to the Will or Trust What's Your Plan podcast. I'm Terence Quinn, an estate planning attorney dedicated to helping families like yours secure their futures and protect their assets. Welcome to episode 7 of Will or Trust What's Your Plan. This might be one of my favorite episodes. This is all about trusts, probate, asset protection, all of that stuff. As always, I'm gonna dig into the book really quickly. I know you're wondering, what's the difference between a will and a trust? So let's go into that more deeply. We talked about it in, I think, episode 1 maybe, but let's jump into it right now. At a basic level, a major difference between a will and a trust is probate court. Trusts are relied on as probate avoidance tools, while wills are useful only in the probate process. Now, I talked in an earlier episode about that fact by itself. At a fundamental level, probate court is the difference. People come to me all the time and they say, yeah, I don't want all that fancy stuff. Attorney Quinn, all I want is a simple will in place. And I say, okay, no problem. We do simple wills for sure. But let me ask you a question really quickly. If you were gone, would you want your family, would you want your daughter to have to go through the probate process to deal with your stuff? Well, no, Attorney Quinn, that's why I'm calling you, because I want to put a simple will in place to avoid that. Well, let me tell you, Mr. Client, a will is going to ensure that your daughter is in probate court. What? Yeah, a will is going to ensure your daughter that she does go to probate court because that's its purpose. A will is nothing more than a letter to the court saying, here's who gets everything after the time, cost, and publicity of probate court, and here's who's in charge of making sure they get it all. If you want your family to avoid probate court, then you probably want to at least consider doing a trust. Now, while I do make the most money off a trust, I'm not one of those attorneys who only push trusts on people because I make money. Even in my early days of this law firm that I owned, when I was broke, I never recommended anything to anybody because of the money I would make. So I'm telling you, and I probably won't even help you because you might not be in a state where I can do the work for you. Definitely approach your estate planning meeting with a trust in mind. Now, through that meeting, your attorney will be able to determine if that's the right kind of thing for you. Let's dig in a little bit more deeply. Why do we want to avoid probate court in the first place? Well, probate court takes time. By rule, it takes 4 to 6 months before it can be over. If people fight, well, on average, it takes about a year, but if people fight, it can drag on for years and years and years and years. I think we've heard of people like Aretha Franklin, like Prince, and many others whose cases lasted for a long time because they didn't have a trust-based plan in place. When we talk about costs, probate court can cost, lawyers who know what they're doing are going to charge you $5,000 to $7,000 for a regular probate case probably. And all that comes out of it. If people fight, that easily gets into 5 and even 6 figures, if not more, because you didn't plan correctly. And then it's open to the public in most states, where probate court is going to be an open venue where people can pull your file and know what you own, all about your children and their assets, what debt you had, and then who got everything, so we know who to borrow money from. So that's the problem of probate court. So people think a will avoids it. We talked about that already. It doesn't. The trust is the tool that does help you avoid probate court, but that only happens if 2 things are put in place. Number 1, the trust has to be built correctly. I think by now you realize you need an estate planning attorney to help you do that, period. But number 2, and this is important, funding your trust, you got to make sure you properly connect your assets to the trust so that when you're gone, nothing is left in your name, because if it is, it goes through probate court and then they'll be good. The trust is a big bucket. Hire an expert bucket builder to build it for you and then put your assets in that bucket to make sure after you're gone, they're dealt with without probate court being involved. In addition to probate avoidance, there's one other thing that I want to talk about for now that helps you with the use of a trust, and that's distributing assets over time. So as I'm considering whether or not you should have a trust, certainly I need to know what you own, the value and the type of those assets. People think that's all that matters, but it's not. I got to know those things as well. But in addition to that, I need to know who you want to receive everything, and very importantly, how you want them to receive it. So for example, with my family, I want my kids to get the assets over time. I don't want them getting it while they're still young. And certainly if they're minors, they can't get it. And so I'm putting somebody in charge to manage the money for them through the trust bucket and to distribute it to them over time at ages and intervals where I think they can handle it correctly. That's another value of a trust. And then certainly if I have a child that has a special need, and we may talk about that in a future episode, then I want to make sure they get it in a way that doesn't disqualify them from governmental support. That's trust language. Now I can build that through a will, a fancy will called a testamentary trust. But to me, in many cases, it doesn't make sense to do that. If a will is for probate court and a trust is avoided, why am I building a tool that's going to take me to probate court to direct the court to build a tool, the trust, that's designed to keep me out of probate court? If you know you want your family out of there, then you probably want to do the trust in the first place. One final point, asset protection. Trusts can be used for asset protection, but not typically in the way that you think. So there are a ton of TikTok videos and TikTok lawyer experts who don't have law degrees who are talking about all these fancy irrevocable trust plans and all of this stuff, which many of which are true and legitimate. But they cost you so much that it's not for the everyday middle class or lower person. It's not for them typically. And they're so complicated that probably it's much more than you need in the first place. Nonetheless, irrevocable trusts are a great tool to use for an asset protection purpose. But even if we don't explore, jump into the irrevocable trust world, regular revocable living trusts. Irrevocable versus revocable just means, can you change it? Irrevocable, you can't change it with regard to how you identified that in the trust. With a revocable trust, you can amend it, you can make changes, you can cancel it. 90% of my clients do revocable living trusts, and that's typically sufficient for the average person. With revocable trust-based plans, we can protect your assets. However, we have to be very strategic in how we do it within the rules. And so putting your assets in trust, a regular revocable trust, is not going to protect them from a creditor or from liability, typically. There are things we can put in place that will allow for that, but not with the regular revocable living trust. Either way it goes, what you do want to do is sit down with your experienced estate planning attorney and go into that meeting. I'm gonna just tell you, go into that meeting asking about a trust. It's gonna cost you much more than a will-based plan. A trust-based plan is typically gonna be at least twice as much as a will-based plan. But it's like the difference between a car and a bicycle, and I'm gonna close on this. Think about the grocery store that's closest to you where you live. Think about it right now. And let's say that there's a rainstorm going on outside. You could walk to the grocery store to pick up those groceries. Let's say you're buying for Thanksgiving dinner. You could walk there to pick them up. You could ride your bike there to pick up those groceries. And you could drive your car there to get those groceries. If you walk, you could get there, depending on how close it is. You'd probably be tired. Hopefully you got good shoes. The shoes don't cost much at all. You could ride your bike. You'll still get wet, and unless you have a basket on the front, how are you gonna carry all those groceries back riding your bike? You're gonna get soaked. And it's exercise, but it's laborious to ride that bike carrying groceries back. You could drive your car. You're gonna get there comfortably. You're gonna get the groceries back. Everything's gonna be dry. You pull into your garage and you're very good. You probably figured out by now, the walking is having no plan. The bicycle is a will-based plan. And the car, which costs much more, is the trust-based plan. Which one would you choose to go in a rainstorm? For estate planning, typically I start my meeting encouraging a trust. And only after I look at what you own, the type and the amount, who you want to get it and how you want to get it, that helps inform me whether we should back off of that and do a will-based plan alone. But if asset protection is involved, most likely we're going to be looking at a trust-based plan as well. Thank you so much for watching this episode. This is all about trust, probate, and asset protection here in episode 7. Come see me. Episode 8 is next. As you're listening, you might be wondering, what's the next step for me? If you're ready to start securing your family's future, head over to tquinn25.com and book a free consultation with me. Together, we'll create a plan tailored to your specific needs. But don't wait. Your future deserves it. That's it for this episode of Will or Trust, What's Your Plan? I hope you found today's discussion valuable and are feeling more confident about your estate planning journey. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on more strategies to protect your legacy and your loved ones. Until next time, take care of what matters most.